All right. Good morning. All right. How's everyone? Went to put my microphone back in my pocket, and I put it on mute instead, and so I should be good now. Thank you guys for joining us this morning. As Brother Jeremy said last week, he and I are going to be taking some turns, going back and forth preaching through the life of Moses. Um, and that's I we met a few times talking about how many sermons we were going to do and what we were going to preach on, and it got to the point where I had to tell him, I was like, you got to give me a cap because I can talk about Moses for a while. So I'm not gonna keep you for a while. I can't talk for a long time at once. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but usually when I preach, we're out of here pretty quickly. Um, yeah. That never happens. No. Um, so in 10 minutes or so. No. Uh, I can try and make excuses for why I don't speak long. I'm used to speaking to teenagers. I'm used to speaking to youth, and youth they have a very short attention span. So you have to be quick. You have to get to your point quickly. And I read a statistic that the average student has about the attention span of a goldfish, which is not very long at all. And I told the youth that one time that that statistic that they have the attention span of a goldfish, and before I could even finish telling them that, one of the boys looked at me. He was like, "Wait, what are you talking about?" And I said, "You. I'm talking about you." So that's my excuse for preaching quickly and not being here all day. Uh, but we have a lot of excuses for things sometimes. Um, One show that Ashley and I have been watching, and it's been mostly me watching it, and Ashley being in the living room while I'm watching it. But it's this show. I love it. It's called Cutthroat Kitchen. Have you guys ever seen that? First off, it's hosted by Alton Brown, and he's like my favorite chef, because he's funny and he just knows so much. But the premise of this show is it starts out with four chefs, and they get assigned just a dish to make, like an egg sandwich. All right, something super simple. But then they each have a certain amount of money, and they are able to auction off these sabotages for the other chefs. All right. So like one of the sabotages, oh, you have to make an egg sandwich, but I'm going to take all your eggs away and give you just a bunch of smashed up eggs instead. All right. So it's just something to mess the other person up. And then at the end of the round, the judge comes out to judge the food, and the judge doesn't know about any of the sabotages. So they're just judging the food based on what's on the plate. And a lot of times the chefs come up with these elaborate excuses of, well, I was going to use actual chicken breast, but instead I decided to go with chicken nuggets for this reason. And it's always some really stupid, made up reason. But we were watching it the other day, and the judge looks at this one plate, and he's like, "This is terrible. Why did you do this?" And the chef looks at the judge, and she starts to come up with her big elaborate excuse, and then she says, "You know what? I have no excuse. I have no excuse for this." And it made me think that I had a manager at one point. He was very, I guess hands off. He would leave us notes of things that he wanted us to do. And at the end of the note, he always wrote the same thing: 100% no excuses. 100% no excuses. And that's what he expected from us. I want this done. I want it done completely. And I don't want to hear any excuse on why you couldn't get it done. 100% no excuses. So this morning, like Brother Jeremy said last week, we're talking about Moses. And Moses is someone who has a lot of excuses. If you have your Bibles, turn to Exodus chapter 3. It's a pretty familiar passage of scripture. In Exodus chapter 3, we see God talking to Moses through the burning bush. And I want to talk about Moses' excuses to God that he tries to get out of things here in chapter 3. So chapter 3, starting in verse 7. At this point, this is after what Jeremy talked about last week, of Moses killing the Egyptian and fleeing to Midian, and living with Jethro and his family and marrying one of Jethro's daughters. Moses is taking care of Jethro's sheep, taking care of his father-in-law's sheep, and he's passing by this mountainside, and he sees a bush that's on fire. And he says to himself, hey, I'm going to go check that out. And when he gets close, he hears a voice calling out from the bush, Moses, take off your sandals, you're standing on holy ground. And then God picks up this conversation with him. We'll pick it up in verse 7. And then the Lord said, I have surely seen the affliction of my people who are in Egypt, and I've heard their cry because of their taskmasters. I know their sufferings. And I have come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them up out of that land to a good and broad land, a land flowing with milk and honey, to a place of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. Now behold, the cry of the people of Israel has come up to me, and I have also seen the oppression which the Egyptians oppress them. Come, I will send you to Pharaoh, that you may bring my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. So God shows up to Moses in this bush, and he says to Moses, look, I've heard the suffering of my people. I've heard them crying out. I've seen what they're suffering through in Egypt, and I'm about to deliver them. And you know what, Moses? I'm going to send you to Pharaoh, and I'm going to send you to deliver these people. And this is Moses' response. In verse 11, Moses said to God, who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the children of Israel out of Egypt? I'm a nobody. I'm not the guy. I'm not the guy you need to send. He said, I will be with you, and this shall be a sign for you that I have sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you shall serve God on this mountain. Moses says, God, that's great. I'm super pumped that you're going to save your people. I'm super pumped that you're bringing deliverance to these people. But there's one flaw in your plan. It's me. I'm not the guy. It's great. Deliver your people. Yeah, just, send somebody else. And God's response to Moses is, this is going to be a sign that you're the man that I want. Is not only are you going to go and get the people, but you're going to bring them back to this mountain, and you'll worship me here. Well, God and Moses continue this conversation, and 5 times Moses comes up with an excuse on why he is not the right guy for the job. All right? When you fill out a job application, usually a lot of people, they may fluff it a little bit to make themselves sound a little better on the job application. But Moses is doing the opposite here. He's no. I'm not qualified for this. No, you definitely, there's somebody better for this job. Totally somebody better. I'm good just taking care of these sheep. God says, no, I'm going to send you. So Moses' first excuse is, who am I? I'm a nobody. You're sending me, and there's no one better. Come on, I'm nobody. If we read further down, Moses' second excuse is, okay, if you send me, who are you? That the people, when I go to Egypt, the people are going to look at me and say, okay, who sent you? Who am I supposed to say even sent me? Which God introduces himself there by his proper name, by Yahweh, as the one who is. Not the one who's determined by our surroundings, not the one who's determined by our own ability, but the one who is in spite of us. Yahweh. So then if we continue reading, Moses, okay, Yahweh, that's a good, you beat me there. But what if the people don't listen? What if the people ignore me when I go? To which God gives Moses signs to perform to the people, to show them that he's been sent by God. So again, Moses, okay, all right, you got me again. I'm not a good speaker, though. I can't speak well. Which for someone who's saying they can't speak well, he's doing a whole lot of arguing and bargaining with the creator of the universe. And his excuse is, I'm not good at speaking. But again, God says, I'm going to give you the words. I'm going to walk you through this. To where finally Moses just gets to the end of his rope and he says, send someone else. I've given you all my excuses. You've had an answer for each one of those. Just send someone else. And the Bible says that God's anger burned, and God's anger was kindled against Moses. I was talking with the boys this morning in Sunday school about God being slow to anger, and in Hebrew, that phrase, being slow to anger, means you have a long nose. Because in Hebrew, when someone gets angry, their nose burns. All right, it's the same kind of picture and image when you see Elmer Fudd getting mad at Bugs Bunny, and he turns all red and he starts steaming out of his ears. He's burning with anger. So the Israelites had that kind of word picture when someone was angry, their nose burns with anger. But God describes himself as being someone who has a long nose, so it takes a long time for his nose to burn with anger. If God had a short nose, then at Moses' first excuse, he probably would have gotten angry. But Moses had excuse after excuse after excuse, and finally God said, okay, I've had enough. You want me to send someone else? I'm going to send someone else. But dang it, you're going with him. So God says, your brother Aaron is coming. He's coming out to see you. I'm going to send him. He's going to be the one that speaks to Pharaoh. He's going to be the one that says the words. And you're going to be standing there behind him. But it gets even deeper than that. Because of all of Moses' excuses, Aaron was the one that God sent. Moses was the political leader of Israel after they left Egypt. But Aaron was the religious leader. And that wasn't God's original design. That wasn't God's original plan. He wanted Moses to be the leadership. He wanted Moses to be that political leader, that spiritual leader that the people needed. He wanted Moses to portray a picture of the coming Messiah that is going to be the political and the spiritual leader. That is going to be our one and only, our all in all. But Moses said, God, send someone else. So God said, fine, I'll send someone else. So Moses missed out on God's blessing. But it goes even a step further than that. Over and over again, we see in the book of Exodus, God speaking with Moses personally. Moses up on the mountain speaking with God. Being surrounded by the cloud of God's glory. Getting instructions on how to build the tabernacle. And by the end of the book, Moses builds that tabernacle. And he goes in to meet with God, but he can't go in to meet with God anymore. because Moses said send someone else. God sent someone else. And now it's only the high priest that's allowed to go in that holy place. It's only the high priest that's allowed that access. And Moses gave that up because of his excuses. Moses gave that up because he didn't want to go. Moses gave that up because it was easier to watch the sheep. If we flip forward a little bit in Moses' life, not even very long, just up to chapter 33. This is after God delivers his people from Egypt. After God delivers his people from Egypt, and they make it back to that mountain where Moses sees the sign that God promised him, the people worshiping at that mountain. Moses is up on that mountain speaking with God. And we see a different Moses. Exodus chapter 33, starting in verse 12. Moses said to the Lord, "See, you say to me, bring up this people, but you have not let me know whom you will send with me. You have said, I know you by name, and you have also found favor in my sight. Now therefore, if I have found favor in your sight, please show me now your ways, that I may know you in order to find favor in your sight. Consider too that this nation is your people." And he said, "My presence will go with you, and I will give you rest." And he said to him, "If your presence won't go with me, don't bring us up from here. For how shall it be known that I have found favor in your sight, I and your people? Is it not in your going with us, so that we are distinct, I and your people, from every other people on the face of the earth?" So what's happened here is the people are getting ready to leave Mount Sinai. People are getting ready to leave and go on this journey to the promised land. But the problem is while Moses was up on the mountain, the people had already turned their back on God. And God's anger burned against them. His nose burned with anger. And he told Moses, "You take the people, you go to the promised land, but I'm not going to go with you." I've laid out these 10 commandments. I laid out this contract for us being in this relationship of you being my people and I being your God. And within days, the people have already broken that contract by creating an idol and worshiping that idol instead of worshiping me. So you just take the people and go. I'm not going with you. And Moses said, "God, if you don't go with us, there's no point in us even packing up. If you're not going with us, we're going to stay out here in the wilderness on this side of a mountain until you change your mind. If you don't go with us, we're just as lost as every other nation out there. You being with us is the only thing that makes us any different. You being with us is the only thing that matters to us as a nation, as a people. So if you're not going to go with us, I'm not packing up." Verse 17. "And the Lord said to Moses, this very thing that you have spoken I will do, for you have found favor in my sight, and I know you by name." And Moses said, "Please, show me your glory." I want us to see the difference in Moses in these two stories. In the first story, Moses was making so many excuses on why he wasn't the one, why he shouldn't go. And in this second story, Moses was making even more excuses on why he won't go without God. The first one, he was making excuses saying, don't send me. I don't want to go. And the second, he's making excuses saying, don't send me away. I don't want to go without you. In the first one, he made the excuse of, who am I? And in the second story, he's telling God, you know my name. You know who I am. You've given me an identity. In the first story, he says, I don't even know who you are. Who should I tell the people sent me? In the second story, he knows who God is. He won't take another step without God. In the first story, he says, what if the people don't listen to me? And in the second story, it shows that the people listen because God's proved himself by the sign that the people are there at the mountain worshiping. In the first story, he said, I'm not a good speaker. In the second story, we see that he's still trying to bargain with God. He's still trying to convince God to change his mind. In the first story, he says, send someone else. And in this second story, he says, there's no one else that I want to follow. Moses started out this journey on excuses on why he shouldn't go. And when he finally gets to Sinai and the people are ready to move on, God's ready to send them on, he's saying, no more excuses. I'm not moving without you. To the point where he says, God, show me your glory. I want to go deeper with you. I want to be fully immersed in you. I won't take another step without you. I want to see you holy for who you are. The change in Moses' life from the beginning of the book to here, it's staggering. The turnaround in Moses' life, the effect that God's presence had on his life. He can't go back to taking care of the sheep. He can't go back. Because you see, Mount Sinai is where God met him to begin with. That's where he was, taking care of the sheep, when God called to him out of the burning bush. And God brought him back to that place. And Moses said, I'm not going anywhere else. I'm back at this crossroads and I'm not going anywhere else. In the first story, God's anger was kindled against Moses, and he missed what God was doing. He missed out on what God had planned for him. In the second story, God found favor with Moses. And Moses wasn't going to miss a thing anymore. So church, my question to us today, and I say my question to us because I have to look at myself at this. What's our excuse? What excuses are we holding on to? Saying why I can't go. Saying why I can't serve. Saying why I can't do this. Why I can't do that. Why I can't go deeper. Why I can't give up. Why I can't let go of who I am and fall into you. Are we making excuses in our own lives? Are we making excuses in our hearts why we can't go deeper with God? Or are we saying 100% no excuses? I mean, completely. 100% no excuses. We have a choice in our own hearts and our own lives. Are we going to hold back? Are we going to say, God, I'm there on Sundays. God, I teach a Sunday school class. Is that enough? Well, we're still holding back part of our own heart and our own life? Or are we going to be 100% no excuses anymore? We as a church, are we going to come together and decide to 100% chase after God with all we are, and we're not going to move another step unless we're following after God? Or is it, that there's a church down the road, they can do that? I'm not the one you need to send. Moses thought he wasn't skilled, but he already had the skills that God was looking for. Moses thought he wasn't the one, but God had already planned on that. Moses thought the people wouldn't listen to him, but God had already made plans for that. He was just asking Moses, trust me and take that step. 100%, no excuses. Church, are we going to take that step? Are we going to take that step in our lives? Are we going to take that step as a church to be 100% no excuses? I can't tell you what that looks like, because for each and every one of us, that's going to look differently. The things I might be holding back aren't the same things that you might be holding back. So there's no formula that I can lay out for how to be 100% no excuses. But as I'm saying these words, if there's something in your life that you're holding on to, that you won't give up, that worry, that doubt, that little pet sin that we love so much, as I'm saying these words, you know what that is. You know in your heart what 95% looks like. You know in your heart what 80% looks like. You know in your heart what excuses look like. So that's my challenge to you this morning. Are we using excuses to get out, or are we using excuses to go deeper? Are we using excuses to get out of serving God, to get out of a relationship with God, to hold ourselves back, or are we using excuses on why we won't take a step further without Him? Moses missed out on what God was planning for him. God's calling out to you today from the bush. Don't miss out on what He's planning for you. Lord God, as we come to this time of decision, Lord, weigh on our hearts, weigh on our minds. God, whatever that percentage is that I'm holding back, God, show me what to give up. Show me how to be 100% no excuses. Lord God, let us come together as a church and be 100% all in for you, Lord, so that we can change this community, so that we can change this county, so that we can change the world that we live in, God. God, speak to our hearts and reveal your will for us. Draw us into you so that we might go deeper instead of getting out. In your Son's name.